How's it going, everybody? My name is Yusuf, and I am finishing up my final year at the University at Buffalo as a computer science student. And just as a general disclaimer, I can only speak from my own personal experiences, so take the advice I give you with a grain of salt. You should question everything I tell you and decide if it applies to you. But that, of course, goes for any information you receive from any source, not just me. So, having said that, here is my advice to future STEM students. Being in my final year, I've dabbled in quite a few different areas of STEM. STEM, of course, being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I think it's only fitting that I talk to you about my experience in the hopes that you come to the decision as to whether or not STEM is for you. So this is for incoming freshmen, transfer students, people considering switching to or out of STEM. Essentially, anyone who is on the fence about whether or not STEM is for them. So, my first piece of advice for you is as follows. This one is actually going to get me quite a bit of backlash, but I think it's the single most important piece of advice that any student can receive, STEM or not. And that is, you're not here to discover your passion. And before you go crazy, what I mean by that is, a passion is not simply stumbled upon, but rather a person becomes passionate about an activity or an idea by fostering their ability and interest in said activity or idea. No one walks into an entry-level calculus class and decides, man, I love this stuff. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to integrating multivariable functions. It just doesn't happen. Of course, some people have already developed passions for various fields at this point in their lives, in which case I say go for it. Don't pass up the opportunity to further explore a passion. But having said this, I offer my second piece of advice to the rest of you. For all you lost souls without a passion. That's a joke. This piece of advice is for every single student entering or already enrolled in a university, with or without any idea of where their interests lie. And that is, try STEM. STEM programs are notoriously rigorous, but making the decision not to try based on this expectation that it's going to be hard, well, you're doing yourself quite the disservice. First of all, because these programs are not as hard as people tell you. Do they require work? Yeah, sure. Otherwise, there would be no value in obtaining a STEM degree. Are they impossible? Absolutely not. I spent semesters in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science, even psychology, and yet I can tell you from firsthand experience that none of these programs are beyond your ability. Everyone is capable of pursuing a degree in STEM. The only real obstacle is, are you willing to put in the time and effort? And if you're not sure just how much time and effort that you would be putting in, take some entry-level science, math, and engineering classes. Go nuts. Explore anything that sounds even remotely interesting. Because you can't say you don't like something if you never try it. So this is a nice segue into my next tip, and that is, don't equate not being able to do something to not liking it. I spent an entire semester studying digital circuits and complained every single day about how much I hated it. It was difficult. I was struggling to understand the material. And I watched as all my friends aced exams that I couldn't even wrap my head around. But it wasn't until I sat down for 4 hours a day, 1 week straight, and practiced analyzing circuits like it was my job. And you know what? It started to feel less and less like a method of torture and more like small puzzles. And the more I solved, the better I got. I ended up getting an A on the final for EE 202, and it was at that point that I decided, you know what? Electrical engineering is definitely for me. Of course, I didn't follow through with that path, but that's an unrelated coincidence. Which leads me to my next item of advisory information, which is, don't discount STEM simply because you don't see yourself being a scientist, technologist, engineer, or mathematician. Do you like helping people? Thinking, creating? Do you like analyzing problems, coming up with solutions to problems as small as solving world hunger or as big as getting that last bit of toothpaste out of the tube? Well, if you're wondering why STEM keeps getting shoved down your throat by your teachers, your parents, your friends, your neighbors, the President of the United States of America, the answer is simple. Studying topics in STEM teaches you how to think. Solving problems with physics, math, programming, whatever it is, it teaches you how to break apart a problem. Use the tools and resources you have, analyze it, and come up with a solution. You learn how to think more logically, more algorithmically, more like an engineer. And what do engineers do? Well, a lot of things. But fundamentally, they provide solutions to problems. And almost everything in your life is a problem until you learn how to solve it. So studying topics like calculus, physics, chemistry, computer science, they teach you how to think. And who thinks? Everyone. Everyone thinks. STEM graduates aren't only scientists and engineers, but leaders, CEOs, doctors, lawyers, parents, friends. They're people. They're just people who have been given a skill set that they can apply to any field, at any situation, literally anything they see fit. So, having said all of this leads me to my final piece of advice, which is, if you're doing it for the money, you will have an awful time in your next 4 or so years of college. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm telling you this as someone who initially jumped into engineering with the main goal of making a lot of money. You might be capable, and you might make it through the program, but you will have a rough time getting there. Every day might be a little grueling. It'll just feel like work for the sake of work, and you need to ask yourself what getting there actually means to you. Something I've noticed in my time as an engineer is the performance gap between students genuinely interested and those who are solely here for the premise of a high salary. Ask yourself why you're considering STEM. And if the only reason is because you want to make money, well, maybe study something you're more interested in. Money should never be your motivation to do anything, but of course, this is for you to discover or maybe not discover on your own. If you choose not to take this advice, that's completely fine. In fact, if you think I have no idea what I'm talking about, that's also fine. These are just a small subset of things that I think people considering STEM should think about. So, like, comment, subscribe, shoot me a message, argue I am wrong, tell me I'm crazy, I'm all ears. Thank you guys, and good luck with your decision.